into the kitchen before I hit it again.
It was 11:10 p.m. when I walked through the door. The house was unusually quiet. The usual hum of the refrigerator and the faint noise of the air conditioner running in the background filled the air, but something felt wrong. I had just gotten home after a grueling 12-hour day at work. As an auditor, I had been swamped with mountains of reports, and I hadn't even thought about food, let alone making dinner for anyone. The moment I stepped inside, my husband, Daniel, stood up, his face flushed with anger. His voice, hoarse with frustration, cut through the stillness. "Get in the kitchen and cook, woman. What the hell do you think this is, a hotel?" He slammed his fist into the armrest of the couch as if I had been the one who caused all the issues. His arrogance and bitterness were palpable, but the slap that followed was what really caught me off guard. It stung. It stung more than I could ever have imagined. My cheek burned and I stood there for a moment, unable to move. But the tears I could feel rising in my eyes were not from the physical pain. No, it was the emotional pain that really hit. I had tried so hard for so long to make things work. I had been patient, but how much could one person take? Without saying a word, I walked into the kitchen. The bitter taste of the slap still lingered on my cheek, but there was a strange calm in my heart now. I didn't feel the fear I used to. No more. I was done being the martyr. I was done being the one to always take the hits. The next 20 minutes felt like hours. I moved through the kitchen, collecting myself and gathering everything I needed. I didn't even think about what I was doing. It felt mechanical, like the only thing I was doing was preparing for a new reality. I had always been the one to cook, clean, and care for them, but tonight I was about to flip the script. I walked back into the living room with the silver tray in my hands. Daniel, his mother Janice, and his sister Erica were sitting in their usual spots, ready for their meal. I smiled faintly, the bitterness of the situation slowly replacing my earlier shock. I set the tray down in front of them, the lid on top. "Bon appetit," I said, keeping my voice steady. They all eyed the silver tray, anticipation written on their faces. I could feel the tension growing as they waited for me to unveil the delicious meal I had prepared. When I lifted the lid, there was no food. There were no steaming plates of rice, no fragrant chicken, no deliciously roasted vegetables. There were just papers. A thick folder containing all the evidence of their greed, betrayal, and manipulation. "What's this?" Daniel's voice cracked, his brow furrowed. "Where's the food?" "You've had your fill," I said, coldness in my voice. "Now eat the truth." The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel's face drained of color as he looked at the documents on the tray. His hands trembled as he picked up the property deed, scanning the title. "Where's my name?" he demanded, his voice shaky. I didn't answer him. I couldn't answer him. The answer was already clear. The house was mine. I had paid for it with my own money. Every brick, every corner, every inch of this place belonged to me. I had worked tirelessly for it, and now Daniel would find out just how much of a fool he had been. Janice stood up suddenly, her hands shaking with disbelief as she picked up the bank statements. "What's all this?" she shouted, her eyes bulging. "You're throwing us out. Where's our share?" "You don't deserve anything from me," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "You've drained me dry, but no more. I've had enough." I watched their faces twist as the reality began to sink in. The years of their selfishness, their lies, their emotional abuse, it was all coming to light now. But I wasn't done yet. I wasn't just going to show them the truth, I was going to make them feel it. The three of them stood there frozen as I reached behind the kitchen door and pulled out 3 large garbage bags. I dragged them across the floor and threw them on the table. Their eyes widened in confusion as the bags landed with a thud. "What's this?" Erica asked, her voice trembling, but I could see the panic in her eyes. She had no idea what I was about to do. "Your things," I said coldly. "Your things are packed and ready. Don't even think about going upstairs to grab anything else. The rest is in the trash." They couldn't believe it. For the first time, they were speechless. Janice, her face contorted with rage and disbelief, screamed at me, "How dare you treat us like this?" I didn't care. I didn't care about their screams or their tears. I had suffered for so long, and now it was their turn. "Take your bags and leave," I said, my voice steady. "This is my house now. You're not welcome here anymore." Daniel looked at me with fury in his eyes. He stood up, ready to strike again, but this time I was ready for him. I stood my ground. "Go ahead," I said, meeting his eyes. "Hit me again? See what happens."
The security camera in the corner already recorded you slapping me earlier. One more move, and I'll send that footage straight to the authorities. What's it gonna be? His face turned pale as he saw the small red light blinking on the security camera in the corner of the room. He knew he had been caught. He couldn't do anything. "Get out," I said firmly. "Now." It wasn't a question. It was an order. The three of them stumbled back in shock. Janice's face twisted in a mix of fury and disbelief, and Erica, the bratty sister-in-law who thought she was better than everyone else, began to cry. But I wasn't moved, not anymore. I went to the door and opened it wide. "Go ahead," I said, nodding toward the door. "The world's waiting for you. Get out." They hesitated for a moment, looking at each other as if trying to come up with a plan, but they didn't have one. They had no more tricks up their sleeves. They had no place left to run. And just like that, they walked out, dragging their garbage bags behind them. They were gone. As soon as the door slammed behind them, the silence in the house was deafening. I stood there, feeling a strange sense of relief wash over me. I could breathe again. I had taken control. I had reclaimed my life. It wasn't easy, though. There were moments in the days that followed where the pain felt unbearable, but I knew I had done the right thing. I knew I had stood up for myself. A few weeks later, I hired a real estate agent and sold the house. I couldn't bear to stay in a place filled with so many painful memories. I bought a smaller place, a modern apartment in the city, and started fresh. It was a new beginning. The peace and calm I felt in that apartment were like nothing I had ever known before. But the most beautiful part of my new life was my career. The divorce, the house sale, it all gave me the clarity I needed to focus on what really mattered, my work. I dove into my job with full force, and before I knew it, I was promoted to senior partner. I had everything I had worked for, everything I deserved. I was living the life I had always dreamed of. And as for Daniel and his family, I had long since let go of them. They had made their choices, and I had made mine. I didn't need them. I had my freedom. But life has a funny way of coming full circle. 1 year later, I found myself standing at the opening of my 5th boutique, surrounded by friends, colleagues, and business partners. I had built something incredible, a legacy of success. And as I cut the ribbon, a sense of pride filled my heart. I knew that my journey was just beginning. And then, as the night wore on, I saw them. Daniel, Janice, Erica. They were standing outside the event, their faces hollow, their clothes ragged, their bodies shaking with hunger and cold. I didn't recognize them at first, but then Marcus, the man who had once been my husband, met my eyes. "Please," he whispered, his voice cracking, "help us. We have nothing left." But I didn't flinch. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pity. I simply smiled, the weight of my success lifting me higher than I had ever been before. And with that, I walked away, leaving them behind, as I had always deserved. And there you have it. If you've made it this far, don't forget to comment where you're watching from and what time it is. I'd love to know how far my story has reached. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more empowering stories. Your support means the world. Thanks for watching.